Welcome to Spotlight Perspective Shift, or is it Perspective Shift Spotlight?
Either way works.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Welcome to Spotlight, guys. Thanks for joining us today. We have a special guest that we're going to be featuring today. Her name is Steph from New Zealand. I know. So we're going to jump right into this and kind of rock and roll. So, Frank, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, all right, Kate. So Steph wrote in to us about she's been listening to our show and stuff, and she basically puts out that she's 35 years old, been suffering from health and mental health issues, and also suicidal thoughts. Then she goes on and she turned around and started realizing she could change the way she thinks and feels and change her life. But then she said she felt a little inadequate because she didn't have any success. Well, I want to reiterate, success isn't the outward world coming into fruition. Success is the feeling that you have this power. The outside world will eventually, over time, show you that. But the true success is the feeling, not the thing. Because everyone, hey, I want to experience this thing. I want more money. I want this. And question, I always ask people why. Because they think in having it will make them feel better. But feeling better, knowing that you have control, like she said, over her thoughts to change the world around her and get out under the suicidal thoughts, that is the very idea of success. So you are very successful, Steph, in just noting that. Just want to flip that around for you and change your perspective on that.
And also, when we talk about like mental health or suicidal thoughts or anything like that, all of those are just details. And so it's okay for us to be aware of the details and understand that we can put some separation between us and those events. We don't have to identify with, oh, I'm having mental health issues, or, oh, I'm suicidal, etc. So it's creating some space so those don't feel so overwhelming. In fact, I would say the majority of this world is experiencing mental health issues, experiencing suicidal thoughts, experiencing feelings of unworthiness, etc. This is like the patterns that we come into life learning, that it is a grind, that you must achieve, that you must show what you've accomplished in order to prove you're successful. So it's becoming aware that there's these ideas that we were taught, and that those ideas are not truth, and they're not absolute truth. The way they're not true is because when you say I'm depressed, have suicidal thoughts, who knows that? It's the observer knows that. When you actually observing, you can then change the persona. You can change the personality of the person, going from someone that's more passionate, more exciting. And there's a method, a way of doing that. But just the recognition of it, just recognizing I was choosing to feel this way, which led me down a path, because physics works in both directions. If I go into a place of unpreferential thoughts, I get more and more of them. Mm-hmm. But if I go into more preferential thoughts, I get more and more of those as well. It's just physics, a law of physics. So now knowing you have the ability to perceive differently, that's all that needs to happen. And then you start moving in that direction. Yeah. One thing that I saw a cool visual one time too, and it was like how space-time is affected. And so if you look at, an event or, a thought as if it was like a ball and it's sitting, in space-time, it creates these divots, and it's being pulled down, and it's being drawn towards you. So whatever your thoughts are, physically speaking, like physics, that it would be drawing that experience closer to you. So exactly like what Frank's talking about, whatever that thought is that's weighing on you, you're drawing that experience closer to you in the fabric of space-time. It's like you're actually putting a ball, like an actual matter, like your thoughts are actual weight, and you are bringing those experiences, drawing those experiences closer to you through the fabric of space-time. So I thought that would be like a kind of cool visual for you. But I wanted to highlight a couple of things that you wrote to us in the email. So let me pull this up right here. So you mentioned, here we go. I was brought up in what seems to be a fairly typical middle-class family in New Zealand. No religion, reason was the crux of all decision-making. I followed the path of success, tried hard at school, went to university, got a science degree, kept my head down, tried to achieve constantly to be a successful, kind person, followed the advice of anyone and everyone who had authority or talked like they knew more than I did. I always felt lost, indecisive, unsure, nervous, used, abused, and eventually gave up on my dreams and myself altogether. So I want to talk about for a second, this experience that you're having, Steph, is the same experience all of us are going through. We're told these ideas from our, as you say it so well, people of authority, our parents, our family members, our teachers, etc. And we buy into these ideas because they're told to us by people that we either care about or have some sort of authority over us. And so if our feelings don't align with that, we think, oh, there's something wrong with me. There must be something wrong with how I'm interpreting the situation. And this is where the feelings of loss, indecision, unsure, nervous, this is where they kind of sprout to come up. Well, you move on to keep saying, it has been a long climb out of that pit. So congratulations to you, Steph. What you're doing is you're doing the work. And you say, what do you write here? Once off random encounter, let me move here. After the night, I found links and everything, quantum physics.
What I like to add is Mike's looking at this too. It's like the reason you feel lost is because you think you have to search for something, but there's nothing to search for. You are the witnesser of your story. So once we come to this realization, we can actually change the story. It's an easier way to go about it than to, like this uphill climb type of thing. I get it seems that way, but when you're actually moving in the direction that you want to go, you're already there. You're just going to get more of there. That's the laws of physics. Mm-hmm. So when you actually step back and realize I am the authority of my perceived personality, then everything changes. But when you give the weight to outside of you, you feel lost because there's nothing to look for. We just have an experience here on this planet.
And I love watching where Steph's head is at, as she's writing this. She's because the only one binding me is me.
Yeah.
I'm starting to choose, who I am instead of being told. It is the most freeing and exciting experience of my life. Because of past trauma, I've been conditioned not to listen to my own gut. And this is something we all can relate to. Because of our past traumas, we feel like, oh, I could be wrong. This is what I was told by some outside authority outside of me. And then she writes, many people experience this. For me, it was quite extreme. Learning to listen to my gut without having to spend precious minutes or hours wrestling it with reason first was very exciting for her. I'm starting to learn to trust myself, to accept that not everyone will like me nor agree with me, and that's okay. That is beautiful, Steph, because it's in that acceptance that you're taking back your power. It is so awesome. And so Steph continues, so here I am now, playing this character. I have temporarily severed ties with my parents so I can build a concrete sense of self, a sandcastle that will not be washed away in the next tide of opinion or disapproval. I have given up striving for the science career that checked all of the boxes, the ego stroke that came with being an intellect, the pat on the back for being a caring person that came with working in conservation and the potential for a comfortable income that would get me the house and other material assets that proclaim success. So I just want to mention here, as far as like your parents go, because I went through something similar like this, with not having to, appease or, live up to. One thing is forgive your parents, Steph. Forgive them, because we live in a world where it's the blind leading the blind. The only reason your parents are sharing this information with you is because it was the information that they were taught.
And they thought it would protect you as well.
Correct. They were doing this, with the best intent. It may not feel that way at times, and we don't know your specific situation. But the biggest thing that I did personally was I forgave my parents because I realized, holy shit, they're trying to figure this world out just as much as I am, except they're trying to wrestle down kids, job, whatever, and just keep this ship afloat, if you will. So that's something that I would share from this experience is make sure you're easy to forgive those around you, those authority or those parent figures that we have in our life, because just because they shared this information with you and you realize that this is not truth, they're on their journey. They're on their journey and they're figuring this out too.
Yeah.
So
and know that there's nowhere to get to. This is just an experience. And when you actually come to realize this, actually life becomes amazing. But if you think you have to get somewhere, this is where you're lost because there's nowhere to get to. It's just one big experience. And choose the character in which you want to experience this world in, and then stick with it. And watch it grow and watch it expand.
One thing Steph does right too here at the end too is I don't know if I will ever feel confidence and drive to ever let my creative side support me financially, but it's something I am keeping an open mind to for now. I am happy making stuff just for me.
That is the support. So, like we often say, the outside world has to support us. The outside world will never support you. You support the outside world. So reverse that statement.
Correct.
And you're there. Money doesn't support you. You support the fact that there's money. Humans created money, by the way.
We did.
So we're the ones supporting and holding up to the value. So turn that around. Your creative actually is supporting you. The outside world doesn't support your creativity.
And one thing that Frank and I, the reason we started this show, the reason you're inspired to create too is there's an audience for you to create for. There are people that need and that are looking for what you have to offer and share. So share it, and be as passionate as you are in this email when you're sharing that. It's only that little voice inside of our head that isn't true. It's based on series and events from growing up, past traumas, etc. That's saying, oh, this isn't worth your time, or you should be doing something more analytical or something more scientific or something more that's going to help you along in your work career. No. Those are all past ideas, conditioning that don't speak to truth.
The people who actually house most of the money on the planet are the most creative people.
Yeah.
So know that, but don't try to figure out how, because no one ever knew that. Yeah. Just continue down the path of doing your creativity work, whatever it may be, and that's supporting your feeling. So that's all you want. And then through that, like Mike mentioned earlier about the mass and the physics. So that's a gravitational pull. So when you have a gravitational pull towards you, everything moves towards you. So if you start going down this road, getting excited about your creative craft, whatever that may be, all of a sudden you'll start seeing the people, the money, everything start to show up. But if you're trying to, you're trying to see who's going to be there prior to doing the creative work, it's never going to happen. You actually have to do the creative work to amass the electromagnetic field of who you are to get people to come closer. So start that way. Don't do it reverse. Reverses will get you nowhere. And
another thing, Steph, you're exactly where you should be. And what I mean by that is you mentioned in your email, you say, I'm currently, I don't know if I'm saying this right, a HIAB driver or a HIAB truck driver. Essentially, it's a crane driver. She puts in parentheses crane, HIAB. She goes, I'm currently an HIAB crane truck driver. And no one understands I do this. My parents think it's just a phase. I guess they just don't understand, people would drive a truck unless they couldn't afford to get an office job. But she talks about how she loves doing this. And then she goes into, sharing about her creative side. Well, don't look at these as separate. The job you're working right now can lead you exactly to the point you need to be led for this new creative experience for you or creative side of you to take flight. You may be working a job for somebody and you're sharing a certain experience, and then all of a sudden it changes from the conversation changes from some work or what's going on, with this specific crane job, and it takes a turn, and you now meet or are introduced to that next person who's going to help you take that creative side to the next level, or help get you the exposure that you need to be, or that you need, to get this off the ground. What I'm saying is, it's not this or that. It's this and that. You can be the truck driving, crane driving, etc., and still be an artist and still have this passionate creative side to you. And this can be the stepping stone that takes you to that next experience.
Well, the true artist of who we are is our story, period. Whether you think you're a painter or an accountant, your art is the movie you're making. We're all making a story. So the story right now is having you as a crane operator. That is part of the story. Don't try to eliminate that. Mm-hmm. And then it'll lead on to something else, because nothing remains the same. So every human being on this planet is an artist. How they express their art is through their story. Yeah. But we say, artists are painters and musicians and this and that. And I'm like, well, that's one form. That's a narrow, shallow idea of artistry. But anyone telling a story is an artist, and we're all telling a story. How we're telling a story. Don't try to skip through the story. Don't put the story and fast forward. Allow the story to unfold. But when you're actually understanding it's just a story, you learn to get excited about the story rather than be dragged through the story painfully and unconsciously and, being tortured by it.
Well, it's funny, too. She also mentions the perception of artists has always generally been that they are poor and weird and only seem to be worth anything once they died. I can tell you right now, Steph, that is only one perspective of an artist.
Yeah.
And yes, it's a very common theme. I wouldn't disagree with you at all. But,
unless you talk to Rolling Stones.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, there's a plethora of artists, photographers, et cetera, that have, made massive amounts of financial abundance.
My accountant is an artist.
Yeah, I know, right? Your accountant for
my
your
returns
job.
are really good.
Your tax returns, quite the artist. But you see what
artistry is a way you view life, not an actual thing you do.
Yeah.
So when you start looking at it from perspective that way and expand on it, artistry is just how we act how we interact with the world around us. That is our art.
Yeah.
Are we dancing? Are we, whatever it is you're doing. But art shouldn't be subsectioned into this is what art is. That's just a narrative that no longer fits the world we're living in.
Yeah. I love it right here, Steph. You say, summary, I'm excited to feel excited. I am so, so grateful I live in a time where technology can put people like you guys on this app on my phone. I feel so privileged to have such information and communities from other sides of the planet so accessible. I can't agree with you more, Steph. And I just wanted to mention that too, because on my journey, I feel like I get why I picked this time to incarnate and come back to Earth, and all this is I wanted to be able to have this experience. And like with YouTube and these different technologies and stuff like that, I have sat in Satsang with Muji, who's on the other side of the world, from me. And I remember I went through like a year and a half of daily listening to this gentleman, and he changed. I've never met Muji ever, but that man has had such an impact on my life. It's not even funny. And I know, when I do have the chance to meet him and I'm in his presence, he will know that. I don't need to say that. He will simply know that. And that's what's so cool about us all being connected in this way and having all of these different, options to, search and find information, etc. It's so at our fingertips. And this is why we're going to see immense change in our lifetime. Our generations before us did not have all of this information so readily available that we do. And so this is just going to build and build and grow and grow. Yeah. So thank you, Steph, for taking the time to write into us, about your experience and what you're going through. I know this will help others who are listening, be able to share in that same experience and learn from you the way Frank and I are learning from you right now.
Yeah. And just know that everything that we experience to other people is just a mere concept. So even like Mike mentioned emoji, he's just a concept of something he constructed.
Yeah.
And so is Moji to himself. I am a concept of myself to I constructed because I'm the one constructing it. So we are living in this, we look at this world, planet Earth is a big place. It's really not.
Yeah.
It's small. Right now we're connecting throughout the world. It's a concept of how we're doing it. And I believe this concept is for us all to come together, experience in this one world, in this universal mind, but having completely different viewpoints of it without me having to step on your viewpoint to make mine right. No one's right, no one's wrong, unless you try to make my right righter than yours. Yeah. And that's not right. Did I say that right?
Yeah. No, you didn't.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, right. Steph. Seriously, we appreciate you writing in.
All right.
We'll see you guys next week for another episode of Spotlight. Feel free to reach out and write into us. You can reach us at perspectiveshift2020 at gmail.com. Again, perspectiveshift2020 at gmail.com.
All right. Peace out.